Brothers began with Rick Berman, of all people, who wanted to do a story about Data meeting his creator, but it was felt by the writers that the show just wasn't going to work. There was some element to it that was missing. Data meeting his creator was good, but they needed to have one other aspect to it, and that aspect was lore. We haven't seen hide nor hair of him since Wesley beamed him into space halfway through Season 1. He seemed to pretty much be forgotten, but with his return, the episode found itself. The fact it's titled Brothers should make that clear, and also should make it clear that I don't mean lore makes the episode. He's just an essential part of what makes this whole thing work. The episode opens with grim news. They were stopped at this planet for a holiday when this kid pulled a prank on his 9-year-old brother while they were at the arcade, making him think that his laser gun was real and that it had killed him. The little boy ran away and hid.
And while he was hiding, he ate the fruit of a cove palm.
Now, in the 9-year-old's defense, I understand that a snake told him to eat it.
Are you aware of the infectious nature of the parasites which inhabit the cove palm?
So the boy is sick with a now fatal disease, the only cure for which requires flying at high warp to a Starfleet medical facility.
Think about it, Mr. Potts. And while you're at it, think about what may have happened had we not been this close to a star-based medical facility.
Okay. I'm thinking, why did these people put an entertainment facility for children next to a grove full of tasty poisonous apples that has no cure? What really makes it hit home is that everybody seems to be implying that the prankster is responsible for the boy's condition. And while he certainly set it off, well, you seem to think that he should have considered that the boy might run off and do something dangerous, while at a facility where the management never considered any child might run off and do something dangerous. Yeah, I understand they also placed the water park right next to the Megalodon tank. Data flakes out in mid-sentence while talking to the kid and heads to the bridge, where he sets a new course and puts the pedal to the metal, despite Geordi being in the midst of finishing his engine work. A wee bit of piracy, yarr! He also rigs up a life support failure on the bridge so they all have to leave, but him. Don't worry, they're not stupid like they were in Data lore. They saw Data heading to leave with all the rest of them. He just stopped before he actually left and stayed behind. And when he doesn't appear in engineering, Picard suspects him of orchestrating this whole thing pretty quickly. Data may be making a fool out of them, but at least they're not actively contributing to looking like idiots. Things they try are initiating a saucer separation, but Data overrides it. They try breaking in from the deck below, but Data keeps putting up force fields. Everything is blocked. Plus...
Computer. Recognize Picard. Jean-Luc. Alpha 2 clearance.
Priority clearance recognition, Alpha 2.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Isolate all remaining command functions and accept related orders and inquiries from main bridge only.
Wouldn't you need a command code or something for that? Because it's not as if Data's trick...
Helm, Mr. Crusher. Set a course for 37, Mach 180. Warp 6.
...is limited just to him. Well, with everything failed, that little boy is in jeopardy and the ship is out of control. The only thing they can do is disable the transporters for the time being to stop Data from leaving. But it'll mean... yeah, time for our subplot to pop up. This is the weakest part of the episode by far. It involves the kid feeling bad and the other one being resentful for the whole "you punked me and now I'm dying" thing. And Dr. Crusher trying to entertain him and do the bedside manner stuff. And well, we don't really get connected with the characters, so it really just turns into a speed bump in the middle of the story. So they finally arrive, only for Data to be unable to beam down. The only plan our heroes manage to actually succeed with, but they'll have to do better if they want to stop Goldface the pirate. Yarr! So he plots out how to get to the transporter room to beam out, which Picard and company deduce will be his plan.
I want security teams along all the main passageways and in every transporter room.
Ah, yeah, security. We saw how well they worked out in Data lore, didn't we? And Worf, for that matter. Well, okay, look, that was then and this is now. This is Season 4. This is a security team that has had to contend with Romulans, Klingons, even the Borg. They've had to thwart one ingenious plan after the next. And this time the survival of a little boy, possibly of everyone on this ship, is going to depend on you. This is your moment, team. Your redemption. Your chance to finally be the heroes. Today's the day you soar. Yeah, that actually went better than I thought it would, really. So Data makes it to the transporter room, beams down, and arrives at this isolated lab where he meets this wizened old guy. Is this for some nefarious purpose? Well, we'll find out. But first he's got to put his tool in Data's mouth. Bringing him out of whatever it was that drove him to come here. Data is naturally in full WTF mode, but notes the familiarity to his creator, Dr. Sung, creator of the positronic brain, as revealed in Data lore by Tasha Yar. He freely admits that he is Dr. Sung.
But the colony was destroyed. There were no survivors.
Yeah, the king's stinking son fired me. On the Enterprise, they're still trying to work things out, both with getting onto the bridge and in making the sick little boy subplot interesting. They fail at one. Guess which?
The old story about the man who goes to his doctor. He says, "Doctor, it hurts when I raise my arm like this." The doctor says, "Son, don't raise your arm like that."
So, if I get dizzy standing up,
Then don't stand up.
So if it just plain hurts to watch your annoying subplot, I guess I should just skip over to the interesting stuff then. Let's go. The crew gets back onto the bridge, but there's a problem.
Computer, this is Captain Picard. Return all command functions to the stations.
Alpha 2 clearance recognized. Please enter security code.
Security code.
Oh crap, up, down, down, left, right, B, A, select, start. Well, it was worth a try. That's got to be frustrating. One little thing goes wrong and suddenly every member of the bridge crew looks ridiculous. Except Data, of course. At least he still has his dignity. There's 3 relationships that are being explored this episode. This is the first, the Data Sung one. Despite what at first might seem Sung taking a decorated Starfleet officer and make an ass of himself, he's presumably just testing to see how far Data has progressed. He's disappointed that Data didn't become a scientist rather than a Starfleet officer. He seems to have little regard for them. And it's damn lucky that that trick of his that he pulled to make Data come here hadn't happened 2 episodes earlier, right? Or they would have been screwed. The material for this is relatively straightforward. Sung is the elusive old eccentric here to answer Data's questions, and more as we'll see, of why he made Data and all of that. But what elevates it is Spiner's performance. It really has to be praised because this entire part is him playing 3 different characters who are all in the same scene, which required doing rehearsals because of how complicated this whole thing was. That's not typical for the way that they did Star Trek at this time. But they felt they had to do it in this case because the whole thing was so complicated, and no doubt it was going to be hard for him to perform in, because essentially he's got to play off a person that he was yesterday or was going to be tomorrow, but not the stand-in that he was actually going to be face-to-face with right now. But he gives Sung an arrogance and a charm at the same time. And Sung's answers are rarely straightforward. He seems intent on using a means of leading in order to get Data to get to the answer, to discover it for himself. Data has been given so much raw potential, but his creator seems to want him to earn the ability to really use it. Their discussion is interrupted by the arrival of Lore, likewise brought here by Sung's return signal. During the commercial break, Data has explained that Lore's evil, but Sung just keeps brushing him off, even when he tells him of how Lore betrayed the colony to the crystalline entity, leading to the deaths of all those people that Sung had left behind when he escaped. But he doesn't want to hear about that. This is about him and Lore now, as we'll soon see, and he presumes that as his creator, he has control over Lore. Lore spent 2 years drifting through space until a chance run-in with the Packlids, those guys who need things to make them go, finally picked him up, so he's pretty peeved with Data. And that, of course, is the second relationship, Data and Lore. And what we see starts to paint a bit of a different picture. It looks like Lore was jealous of Data. He was, after all, his replacement. Lore was boxed up and Data was to be the new model. So his actions in Data lore probably weren't about getting Data to ally with him, but to lure him into a false sense of security for when he'd strike, as he did. But the third relationship is also to be explored, that between Lore and his creator. It is a much more complicated situation. Sung took Lore apart and just left him behind, so Lore is happy to just walk out the door without another thought, naturally. It's only news that Sung is dying that makes him stop. And the surprising thing is that he's in denial. So much so that he's desperate to think that Sung is just trying to trick him. They have such a complicated relationship. And it's further mucked with by Data's existence and presence here. Data asks about Lore's comment that he was replaced by a less perfect android, which Sung dismisses as nonsense, and Data just keeps repeating that fact to himself. I am not less perfect than Lore. It's been something that must have been hanging over his head these last 3 years for him to repeat it like that, to think that for all of his achievements, all he could ever be is the inferior model. But Lore is worked up over his being disassembled and replaced, with only the answer from Sung as, I did what I had to do. Finally, the emotions of it all seem to overwhelm him, and a shocking question emerges.
Why didn't you just fix me? It was within your power to fix me.
Lore's arrogance and ambition are enormous, but now, what he unwittingly reveals is that he'd rather lose all of that, just be like Data, than to be rejected. No attempt is made to justify himself as he is here, that his traits make him the being that he is. If his father says that they were a malfunction and that means rejection, Lore would rather lose all of that instead. And it speaks of the kind of man that Sung was. He was bringing life into the universe, so that he had produced something that could be a monster, and decided to just pack it up and start again. He said he planned to go back to Lore eventually, but obviously he never did. While he seems like the wizened old toy maker from a storybook, he was making life, and it wasn't turning out, yet he kept at it. Continuing to build off one's failures to succeed is certainly the way to go in science, technology, and so on. Except the process was in making self-aware beings. In a way, they pay the price for his mistakes. And this is part of why Lore's presence is so important, to show the complete man that Sung is, rather than just some wise old man. In fact, Lore seems to be a reflection of Sung's darker nature when you think about it. His ego and self-importance, his disregard. Lore makes only one other appearance in Descent, and he was experimenting over and over again in making the Borg fully synthetic life, and failing, but insisting that he just keeps on trying no matter the results. And the Borg went along with that because he made grandiose promises about what he could do for them, just like Sung had about the positronic brain. Anyway, the reason that Data was summoned is because Sung has made a chip for Data to give him basic emotions. But while Sung's sleeping and we're watching the Enterprise crew jerry-rig the transporters, rather than using the ones in the shuttle, Lore again swaps places with Data so the chip can be installed in him. Basic emotions is what it provides, but Lore already has advanced emotions, so it seems that he's doing this for one of two reasons, or both, I suppose. To deny the chip to his brother, whether out of spite or perhaps to ensure that emotions, which are what make him different from Data, would forever be beyond his reach. Or hoping that the chip might eliminate the instability that caused his father to reject him. Whatever the reason, Lore seems quite pleased with himself and roughs up Sung for good measure before beaming away. Well, as anyone knows, if somebody's dying, all it takes is a little push to make it imminent. So as the away team arrives and Data learns what happened, Sung announces he's about to kick the bucket. Data has his goodbye with enough time for them to reach their destination, save the little boy, and have their pat little ending that they're together because they're brothers, the end. The post-episode follow-up. Annoying character goes to Dr. Crusher, who almost makes me wish Dr. Pulaski was here this week. Now forget I said that. Final score for Brothers is 8 out of 10. There is clunkiness in the subplot to be sure, but the main one works really well, like a well-oiled machine. Its opening has double duty as both the urgent attempt to retake the ship from Data, which is exciting, and also to heighten the mystery of why he would be doing this, and with a payoff that's worth it. The group dynamic is great, especially because it fleshes out Lore's rather one-dimensional characterization that we had back in Data Lore. So, all right. Rick Berman did well. Ugh, I need to go take a shower.
I am not less perfect than Lore.
I am not less perfect than Lore.
Enough!